Israel will not win the PR war because the West, most of the news media in the left, are not asking themselves my following metaphorical question. If you had a New York Times reporter in Berlin in 1945, they would try to persuade the Allies not to destroy Hitler. I'm sure of that. The current. I'm using New York Times metaphorically. Now, others would say, yeah, you feel sorry for the Germans. Look what they did. Now, this is a hard question. What do you do to get to Hitler? Well, you got to go through Germans, and Germans were tenaciously defending. Does Israel have to go in there? As our Secretary of Defense has said, it can't go back to the prior status quo. They have to take out this person because 10 years later, we'll be back here in the same place. Now, what Israel has done before is send very small units into highly populated areas and with very small number of troops create a defensive zone to get that one guy, to get the one abductee. That's not going to happen now. Tanks are going to go in. And just like, I asked a few people, do you know how the Americans went into Germany? I said, I have no idea. I'm a student of history. I'm going to give you an anecdote. When the Americans first went into Germany and they went into a German town, they called out for the surrender. No surrender. The troops walked down the streets, pot shots from every window, pulled out, brought up a company of tanks, and they blasted through every home through the walls. One wall, another wall, another wall. The infantry went in, tossed grenades upstairs, rooted it out. We went through German villages that wouldn't surrender one wall at a time. The army surrendered. The SS would murder anybody who surrendered and tried to leave. We were merciless. The company commander said, I'm not sacrificing my troops for your civilians. This has gone on long enough. Then they would catch the mayor and say, phone to the next town and tell them what we're going to do if you don't surrender. We're going to attack you. But we're going to blow holes in one wall after the another, and then we're going to go to the next village. And sometimes they come to the village. People rose up against the SS, murdered all the SS in the town or village, left alone. I just want you to try to imagine. If the SS came to a village that surrendered, it wouldn't be left alone. They would be massacred, murdered, mutilated, burned. That's not what the American army did. They say, okay, you don't want to fight? You don't have to fight. Go on to the next village. Now, what will the Israeli army do? In my opinion, they're going to take a page from the book of that operation and others that says, when you're going into a civilian population, either you protect their civilians or you protect your people. Hank, it's that stark. I would like you to imagine to yourself, you and I are both maybe a little bit old to serve, but let's say you're a 30-year-old company commander. You have 150 men and women under your command. You're going in, and you have the choice. Do you want to protect their civilians or your people? Remember, those are the civilians that were ecstatic when the bodies were dragged through the street. Keep that in mind. And you're the company commander who's seen the pictures of what these people do. And you can maybe even get at this Hamas leadership or protect their civilians and have your people die under your hand. I don't know what you would do. I know what I would do. That's the choice ahead of us. Now, none of you have to make this choice because none of you are a 30-year-old Israeli company commander with 150 people under your command with these murderers in reach. But that's what Israel's facing. So in my opinion, it's going to be tanks. It's going to be masses of infantry, not like before. They're going to go one block after another, blow everything up in front of them. That sounds horrible. We did it. We did it to the Germans because we were intent on conquering and getting to Hitler and not having our people killed unnecessarily. It's a horrible, horrible moral choice. My opinion, I hope this doesn't maybe sound like anybody but Franklin Roosevelt, to tell you the truth. That's what we had to do. This is the beginning of the fight. No college kid is going to come home to anybody that you know without hearing some truth. And I hope you're all dedicated to it. We have to turn this around. Our children, our college campuses being assaulted by the supporters of murderers. Now, I don't think we should send our children to any university that tolerates demonstrations of those who support atrocities and murder. Pull your kids out right away. Don't send them there. Don't write any more checks. Send them somewhere else. Let these universities dissolve. for their morally atrocious behavior. We have power. Close your checkbooks. Send your children anywhere else. Don't let college kids come home and have the high moral ground, because they don't. Now, it's going to be tough. This might take 20 years to turn this around. But you know what? We've been complacent for 30 years, allowing hard leftist Israel haters. I'm not saying there aren't Jew haters and Israel haters on the right. Right now, the ones at college campuses are hard left Israel haters. They've taken over the conversation. They've taken over the faculties in many places. They've taken over student body government in many places. It's time to fight back now. I am one of hundreds of clergy, rabbis around the country right now, including a group called the Jews for Liberal Values, that have had enough of this. Now, I'm not going to spend my whole life talking to it. I'm a rabbi. I teach wisdom work. I want to help families that are suffering. But this is part of my professional and personal life until my last breath on this planet. And I feel empowered because I have you in front of me. I want you to feel empowered. We want to put informational stuff online that you can get to, maps and indices. The minute you talk to someone who says apartheid state, outdoor prison, blockade, you have the facts at your disposal. You put the facts and say, look, you can go online and you can look at facts, or you can just be a brainwashed ideologue. It's in your hands, but they're not going to get away with it. I don't want anybody saying to me, I don't know what to say. They're so morally confused, but I don't know what the truth is. Doesn't everybody have their own truth? If I say that one more time, I don't know what I'm going to do, but I don't have happy thoughts when someone says we all have our own truth. There's one truth. Now, I'm not saying I know what it is. I don't know it clearly, but I know there's not true truths, that Hamas was justified and unjustified. There's one right answer there. And there are people who are on the other side of the right answer. I don't have any sympathy or tolerance for them, nor should you. So I feel strong. I feel passion. I'm dedicating my life to this, as is my wife, as are our daughters. They're music festival going friends with the braided hair and the beards and the design, the floral shirts and their guitars. A whole generation of beautiful people. You know what I'm talking about? They're trading their guitars for M16s and going down there to protect their country. They're turning in their sandals for boots. They're going down there, and we have to support them. They have to know we are 100% behind them every inch and step of the way for the long run. And I want all of you to enlist in this purpose, not because it's Jewish, not because it's Israeli, because it's right, and we are supporting innocent lives. Ask those 200,000 reservists who went down there. Even those who weren't called up went down there. Our own daughter wanted to go down there. They just said, don't come, we don't have a slot for you. Ask them what they want to do. Ask them what they're afraid of. You know what they're afraid of? That they won't get to these people. They won't get to these murderers. They won't be able to get to Hitler. That's what they're afraid of. Now, Israel has never done this before, to treat this like a war. They've always tried it as a special operations thing where they're overwhelmed by the other people. Israel does not want these people, my children, your children, these beautiful, beautiful Gutta Neshamas, they don't want them massacred. But they don't have a choice. Senator Biden, then Senator Biden said the following. When he first met Golda Meir in 1973, he said, I'm worried you're surrounded by enemies. And this is what he said. Golda Meir said, we have a secret weapon, let me tell you. And he bent his ear, and Golda Meir said to him, our secret weapon is we have nowhere else to go. That's our secret weapon. We have nowhere else to go. And I believe there's something larger cooking. When people say, how could Hamas do it? Was Iran involved? I have no doubt that Iran is involved. And if Iran involves, it means China's involved. It means Russia's involved. There's an alignment in the world of Russia, China, Iran, pushing back at the West to establish who will dominate the world in the coming century. As much as you may not like America with our messy past and our messy politics, there is a stark choice. There's a stark choice. Russia, China, Iran, United States, Europe, Israel. I don't think it's going to be a world war. It's a proxy war, and the proxy war is taking place here, and the West has to win this war, which is why our government has sent an aircraft carrier battle group, not just to show support, because if, as President Biden said, if you're thinking about getting involved in this war, he said, I have one word for you: don't. If Iran dares, in my mind, send missiles, they're going to be knocked out of the sky by the Americans, both with our fleet in the Persian Gulf and both by the battle group right off of Israel's coast. I think another battle group is going to show up. The only thing I can say is, thank God Saddam Hussein is not there sending over dozens of Scud missiles as we talk. If he were still in power, Israel would have already been bombarded by hundreds of Scud missiles. Thank God he's out of the picture. If the Iranians want to dare get involved, I think you're looking at a resolute American government, and thank God for the resoluteness of our government. And I think you are looking at an American military who has seen all these young men and women. They have video phones. They see what's going on. And as Americans and as moral people, they have a will to fight this evil. I guarantee you, they are itching to get into the fight against this evil. So I believe there's a larger thing at stake. By the way, I've gone to several briefings this week. I didn't make this up. I went to briefings where scholars laid all this out and said, this is the battle here to determine the future of the world for the next 100 years. Is it going to be Russia, China, Iran? Or is it going to be United States, Europe, and Israel? Which is it going to be? We have to make a choice. The battle is now, from my mind, I don't sound too stark, you got to make a choice. Are you abstaining? Are you in? You're out? I'm all in. I want all of you to be all in. And we're in touch with people in Israel. I'm going to these briefings. There's plenty we're all going to be able to do. Maybe we can even divide up our labor. This is not left, right, center. This is about fascism versus democracy, every version of democracy, and real fascism, not the phony fascism of the judicial reform. Yeah, there are problems there, but we're talking about Hamas fascism, Iranian fascism, Russian fascism, Chinese fascism. That's real fascism. These are real tyrannical, human-hating governments, and the time is now, from my perspective. All right, hate Zionism. What do you propose? Do you propose butchering babies? Do you propose beheading babies? Do you propose going into a music festival and machine gunning people and burning bodies and raping women next to their dead friends, throwing them back of a pickup truck and parading them around Gaza? Is that that kind of hate Zionism? I'd love to know what they mean. So you have to put them on the spot. You have to put on the spot, what exactly do you mean and what exactly you're proposing? And by the way, that's something I want to train us all to do. Whatever somebody says, define your terms. What exactly do you have in mind? Don't hide behind rhetoric. I don't hate Israel, I hate Zionism. Go ahead, all right, so tell me what you have in mind. I'd love to know. I would love to know what they have in mind. It's such a great question, and I want to talk about this tomorrow because it's too. I want to get the so-called big kind of passionate but non-complex stuff out of the way today. Yeah. The nature of how liberation politics. Liberation actually means fascism, but they call it the Palestine Liberation Organization. Liberation movements have taken over a word that actually means the imposition of fascism and mass murder. It's a distortion of language that's been able to pulled off. They've been able to capture the imagination of a generation of young people back in the 70s who are now old people and running faculties. I watched it happen in the 70s. Okay? I watched it happen in the 80s. I just want to give you an example. When my son, who's a Marine Corps veteran and three times deployed Afghanistan, twice in Iraq, he gets out of the military, goes to Valley College, and he's asked to write a paper critiquing Fox News. He says, can I critique MSNBC? He says, no, you can only critique Fox News. That's when my son went to study history. My son was taught the Americans began World War II. We made the Japanese attack us. And you couldn't disagree with the professor. He's teaching history at Valley College, this person. And the entire time he was going to school, every single week we had to tell him how to counter this because it's an indoctrination everywhere. So what's happened to this generation? They've been ideologically brainwashed. Their brains have been captured and distorted by people that in my opinion, are ignorant and morally corrupt. I don't know if they're evil, but they're creating evil. And therefore, we have to create moral clarity and ideas rooted in facts that are easy to research. That's going to be our goal. Don't want to persuade anybody. I'm not going to try to have you believe one thing or another. I'm going to teach facts and theories based on facts. So anybody can look it up and no one can say, oh, he made that up. I'm not going to make anything up. The best thing to do is ask questions. If they come and say, what's going on? Say, what exactly? Well, isn't Israel occupying Gaza? What do you mean by occupy? They don't have any soldiers there. What do you mean by, I don't mean occupy, I mean the blockade. What do you mean by blockade? Don't they stop anything going into Gaza? Actually, no. Look at Kogat. Just look it up. Take your phone out, Cogaat. Look at the Erez crossing. Look at the Kerem Shalom crossing, and how many tons of goods go into Gaza every single day. Look it up. It's on your phone. My phone is smarter than I am. It has all the information right here. Look it up. Wait a minute. They go, I never heard of this. It's not a blockade. No, it's not a blockade. It's called an interdiction, so they can examine the sources. But is there still a blockade? I say, excuse me, where do those motorcycles come from? Those pickup trucks, those rockets, those RPGs, those machine guns. Go to Google Images and type in Gaza. They're pretty well-fed people. In fact, I think some of you actually need Weight Watchers, to tell you the truth. Okay, the stores are full. Look at Gaza Strip. I mean, the corner delis are packed with goods. How can there be a blockade? Outdoor prison. Look at Google Images of Gaza City. It looks like a paradise. See, all you have to do is facts. Open your phone, go to Images, Gaza City. What do you see? I got to tell you, when I saw the pickup truck with the body of the raped and mutilated young woman in the bed of the pickup truck, I looked enough to see behind the pickup truck. I saw villas. I saw beautifully paved highways. I saw well-fed people dressed in Western clothes. Now, you can say, pick up that image and you tell me back there, is that a blockade? Is that an outdoor prison? What do you call that? So all I do is say, what exactly is your question? Give me exactly your question. I get them down to a precise question. I say, look at this. So we want to tell you all that you can do. I have so much to say about the apartheid. I don't want to say it today because the neighborhood in which we have our apartment in Israel, in Florentine, there are Sephardic Jews, Ashkenazi Jews, students, Bohemians, Christian Arabs, Muslim Arabs, Sudanese, Eritreans, all together. There's liquor stores, corner markets run by Arabs and Sudanese and Jews, all of us in one area, all hanging out, going to coffee shops, saying hi to each other. I have to tell you one incident. So a 7-Eleven just opened up in our neighborhood. So I go, 7-Eleven, great. So I go down there 11 o'clock at night to get a slushie. They're closed. What the hell? So who's standing in front of me? A woman from the Philippines. And she's looking at me and she says, in English, why are they closed? I said, I don't know. She says, this is terrible. 7-Eleven is supposed to be open 24 hours a day. I said, so we're sitting and complaining. In a street in South Tel Aviv, that the 7-Eleven is not open 24 hours. She's from Manila. I'm from Los Angeles in Florentine. That's what it's like in Israel. Someone says, apartheid state. I said, what are you, nuts? Just go there and walk around with your camera. And I said, so what do you mean by apartheid? Oh, I mean this other thing. I said, okay, stupid Finley. If you say apartheid state, what exactly do you mean by apartheid? You know what I found out? They don't even know what they mean. They just like throwing the word around. So, Nadav, here's what you do. Gather your information. We're going to connect you with all the sources. Someone says something, say, what exactly do you mean? They won't know what they mean, but they don't want to sound that ignorant, so they'll say something. Say, okay, great. Open your phone. I'm not going to tell you. I'm going to have you go to an image. Now, one problem is, I'll talk about this tomorrow, there's layers and layers of websites that are sponsored, hijacked, and they figure out the Google Analytics. So you do have to get through the noise to get to something factual. We'll show you how to do that tomorrow. Okay, and a couple more things that I'm going to end tonight. And I'll say, okay, what does that look like? What does that look like? I've seen cameras on the streets of Gaza. The stores are full. People are not starving. They're wearing clothes. So I would say, what exactly do you mean by poverty? And who did this research? Because it is not a surprise to any of you, the UN is stacked against Israel. When fascist, murderous states are in the United Nations Human Rights Commission, we have to think for a moment. So I'm going to say to us, forget what the UN says. It might be lies, it might not be lies. So let's just agree. We can't trust what the UN says, okay? If I want to know there's poverty in Israel, there are direct things I can do, right? Aside from those who are professionally unemployed, meaning those in the refugee camps who are living on UN welfare, okay? Let's look at the standard of living of other people and forget some, in my opinion, Jamie, some arbitrary standard the UN has produced in order to make Israel look bad, okay? So we're going to talk about this tomorrow. But remember, the UN publishes this in order to make Israel look bad. They're not interested in moral clarity. They're not interested in facts. And I can give you tons of evidence. So let's say you and I are going to forget the UN. What exactly is happening in Gaza and why? Because there is no blockade. Everything gets through. There are pickup trucks and motorcycles and paved streets and villas and newspapers and Islamic universities. And people are well-dressed and overweight. So I don't know what their point is in saying this. You see what I'm saying? So let's you and I forget about them. Let's you and I talk and figure out, how do we know about the standard of living in Gaza, seeing that there is no blockade? See, that's my first big red flag. Then you and I can talk. Okay, so we'll set some ground rules, set some premises, and have a conversation that's based in facts and moral clarity. Okay, that's my proposal. Thank you. That's answerable. The second one is answerable. Absolutely not. Number one, and a large number of Israeli Arabs who never came out said, we support Israel. We want to live under Israel. This is horrendous. It's an embarrassment to Islam. There's a very big Palestinian influencer who says, I'm a Palestinian who happens to be born in Israel. He switches identity. I'm an Israeli who happens to be a Palestinian. He has 1 million followers. Now, so all over the place, you'll find Israeli Arabs, Muslims and Christians who are coming out, taking a stand, as I would like all of us to do. Okay, so now the question is, what is this fascination with Israel, what I'm going to call the American hard left? It's a fascinating thing. I would like to give you an objective, historically accurate analysis of what I'm going to call the hard left, not what I'll call the pro-worker left, which is where I grew up. Give the workers an even break and pay teachers a lot more money and pro-union. I was brought up on the worker left, as it were. There's something called the hard left that in my mind actually doesn't care about the working left. It's my opinion. I can back it up and ask, what happened here? I can give you the history of it. I've studied. I've never wanted to talk about it, Andy. I don't want to get in these debates, as you know. It's time I actually share the considerable knowledge that I have that's not biased. It's factual. Historically, one can factually track the history of the American hard left and the European hard left. It's public knowledge, and I want to offer a little bit of that tomorrow. You should all know it. I'm going to give a little bit of it. I'm not going to give you 10 books worth of the 20 books that I have, and then I'll provide more sources as we go along. Anyway, thank you. That's an excellent question.